What was that word again?
2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun.
Lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, lettuce, cheese, pickles, oh, what am I saying?
You deserve a break today at McDonald's,
where your dollar gets a break every day.
Back from 1974, an ad for the iconic Big Mac at McDonald's. Now, let's talk a little bit about fast food. We are told all the time, fast food, you should not be eating it. And you know the poster child of bad food for you, like bad fast food, food that's not good for you? The poster child for that is kind of sort of McDonald's and that Big Mac. So how is it possible? How is the story of Don Gorski, the Wisconsin man that has been eating a Big Mac or 2 Big Macs every day for 50 years possible? Guinness Book of World Records says that Don Gorski has had a Big Mac, and he's got the proof to back it up. For 50 years, every day, he's only missed 8 days over 50 years. Now, you'd think this gentleman should have been dead of a heart attack a long time ago. Well, now he's 68. Kind of looks to be in pretty good health. So I wanted to ask Chris Labos, Dr. Christopher Labos, our cardiologist extraordinaire on CJAD 800. I wanted to get his opinion on this because I've been told that the heart should not be able to withstand multiple Big Macs a day for 50 years. Dr. Labos, welcome to the show.
Hello.
So what gives here, Dr. Labos? When you read the story of Don Gorski, 50 years of eating Big Macs, so he's eaten now over 30,000 of them, and he looks perfectly fine. So how is it possible, Dr. Labos?
Well, I think there's a couple of things at play at here. One is sort of the what we sometimes refer to as the George Burns effect, right? George Burns smoked cigars his whole life, and he never developed lung cancer. But the reality is that if you took 1,000 people and made them smoke cigars every day for 30 years, most of them, or a higher number of them, would go on to get lung cancer. So just because you can find an exception to the rule doesn't mean that the rule doesn't apply. The other thing, too, though, is that if you look at some of the pictures, it's never made entirely clear. It's not entirely clear what he's ordering along with the Big Mac. If all he's doing is essentially eating a hamburger with some lettuce and tomato on it, that's different than having a Big Mac with fries, with a soft drink that has, tons of sugar in it. So the way we eat is more complex than just one single food. As a general rule, when somebody says that they eat a lot of, fast food, that usually means that they're eating a lot of, hamburgers, but also French fries, soft drinks, and they're getting a lot of sugar from a lot of different sources. And so it is possible to just have a plain hamburger and for that to be not that unhealthy, all things considered. It depends how much mayonnaise they put in it, whether you're eating the bun or not. So there's a lot of simple adjustments that you can make to minimize the negative impact that you get with the food. And so it's possible that if he's foregoing the French fries and the soft drinks, it may not be that bad. And the other thing, too, is that he started doing this when he was a teenager. When you're a teenager, you can basically, metabolize styrofoam and it won't cause you any problem. But it does start to catch up with you with time. And so he may start developing heart disease now as he gets into his 60s and 70s when most people do start to manifest signs of, atherosclerosis.
Okay, so Mr. Don Gorski, Mr. Big Mac fan, 68 years old. One of the things you just mentioned here, I think I want to sort of elaborate on this point here. And I think it comes down to calories in, calories out. Big Mac, 550 calories, okay? If he's sticking to the Big Macs and he's not doing the milkshake or the soft drink or the apple pie on the side and then the large French fry, this is what it comes down to, right? So, I guess, the whole notion of calorie in, calorie out, how much do you buy that, even if it's a Big Mac? If he's staying within the calorie in, calorie out, can you still stay healthy?
Well, I think you can. And again, there's other things that you can do to minimize the risk, like how much mayonnaise you put on that. That makes a difference, right?
It's called special sauce, Dr. Labos. I need to correct
Special sauce, exactly. And it's also a question of whether you eat the bun. So this is the thing, a hamburger in and of itself, because a Big Mac is essentially a hamburger, right, with just a few extra stuff on it. So depending on what you put on it, that's what's going to determine how much is in there. I mean, just to sort of, to take this on a tangent, it's like coffee. If you order a black coffee, there's virtually 0 calories in it. But if you order a flavored coffee with French vanilla and whipped cream, there's a lot of calories in that. There's a lot of sugar. So it's really about minimizing the amount of extra stuff that's in it. And this is the problem with how we eat. We tend to eat according to certain patterns of behavior. So it's never one food by itself that's problematic. It's the fact that fast food tends to be combined with, like you said, French fries, milkshakes, soft drinks, all that stuff that is loaded with calories and especially loaded with extra sugar.
We're with cardiologist Dr. Chris Labos. You can hear him on Sunday mornings on Weekends with Ken at 8 to 10 a.m. when he does his Sunday morning checkup. But we're talking about the Big Mac right now and that gentleman in Wisconsin who's been eating it for 50 years. Now, Dr. Labos, another thing about this. I'm often told, red meat, killer, right? You got to stay from red meat. You got to stay away from red meat. You got to stay away from processed foods. And I look at what's in a Big Mac, bread, highly processed white bread, those slices of cheese, that's not going to win any awards for being natural, So when you hear that story as well, about what's in that Big Mac, and he's eating red meat every day and he's eating processed foods every day, what are your thoughts on that part of the equation?
Yeah, so if we could get the entire population to switch from red meat to fish, let's say, we would be healthier. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But it's not as if one steak, one hamburger, one veal chop is going to cause cancer. What we can say is that as a rule, somebody who eats meat on a daily basis is going to be at higher risk for cancer, particularly colorectal cancer, and it increases the risk by a small amount. Your lifetime risk of getting colon cancer is for most people who don't have a family history, is somewhere on the average of 5%. If you have an unhealthy diet like this with, a lot of red meat and a lot of processed food, you can increase that to maybe 6 or 7%. So people have to look at this and say, okay, that risk on an individual level might be small, but apply that to the population, it turns into a lot of excess disease. Mm-hmm. So it depends how you want to frame the question. It would be better for the population as a whole to eat less red meat, and of course there's the environmental benefits and all that. For you as an individual, though, it may not make much of a difference. And that paradox is what makes epidemiology so difficult and so interesting from my perspective. But it's often hard to explain to people that subtlety, that, okay, you may not notice the difference, but do it in enough people, and then you start to see the fruits of your labor, which is that if you can get everybody in the population to eat healthier, we have less disease overall.
And Dr. Labos, let's end off by talking about variety in diet, okay? And I take a great pleasure. I have to laugh when I hear this gentleman in Wisconsin, Don Gorski, says, I had one Burger King Whopper in 1984. And, you think about variety in diet. So let's end off with this. This is the opposite of variety in diet, right? This guy, and I'm sure there's something else going on here and I think I've met people that all they like to eat is chicken and potatoes, right? They're in that. This seems like a more extreme version of that. What can you say on that end when it comes to people that lack of variety in diet and that stick to just one or two things?
It is potentially problematic. And when you get people who take it to extremes, like people who have very, very restrictive diets, that is the one situation in which you can start to get into vitamin and mineral deficiencies. Vitamin and mineral deficiencies are extremely rare in North America because we have access to an inexhaustible and varied food supply to the degree that our ancestors could never have even dreamed of. But there are very specific situations where people are like, no, I only eat, toast. There are people who have these very, very restrictive diets. And that is a situation where you can actually make yourself sick. So making sure that you eat from a bunch of different food just to make sure that you get all the necessary vitamins and minerals is important. To become vitamin deficient is a hard thing to do by accident, but there are people who purposefully do these very, very, specific fad diets that can sometimes get themselves into trouble when they neglect the vast majority of the variety of food that's out there.
Dr. Labos, most important question to end. What is the best of all the fast food burgers?
Good question. I actually like McDonald's, although I have to say I don't think I've had a McDonald's hamburger in quite a few years now, so I don't know if the quality has held up over time. I've heard people say that it hasn't.
Well, let's just hope McDonald's doesn't wrap up that question and turn it into an advertisement.
Yeah, let's hope not.
1 out of 1 doctors recommends McDonald's. Dr. Labos, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. You take care.
Dr. Christopher Labos, he's a cardiologist, and of course you can hear him on Sundays, 8, 10 a.m. on Weekends with Ken.